Hey everyone, welcome. So good to have you all here on today's Airspace conversation. I'm really excited because this is one of those conversations that shows up in our everyday lives, even when we don't talk about it. Uh, if you are new here, this is our quarterly Airspace series where we unpack real topics that shapes how we show up and how we lead, how we support each other in our workplaces, our homes, our communities. Last quarter, we had an incredible session with Justice, Thelma, and Matthew talking about breaking the hustle culture and how to create real life balance. That conversation was honest, it was refreshing, and many of you shared how it helped you to rethink your routines and expectations. So, thank you for bringing that energy back today. Now, let me say this before we go any further. This conversation is not about pushing men aside or discrediting men. Not at all. We see the men who support, the men who show up, the men who advocate for balance. We actually have one of them here. What we are doing today is shining a light on some of the experiences women face quietly so we can understand each other better and work towards healthier, more balanced spaces for everyone. Today, we are diving into the invincible strength, how women navigate power, perception, and progress. You know, women carry a lot. The expectations, the pressure to hold it together, and mental load, and yet they continue to show up at work, at home, in leadership, in communities, and everywhere in between. Did you know globally, women hold roughly 29 to 33% of senior leadership roles, even though they make up a similar share of the overall workforce? Invincible labor, the emotional and mental work of just planning and coordinating, it often goes unnoticed and unrewarded, even though it significantly shapes team and family life. And senior women, they often report that there's higher rates of frequent burnout than their male peers, which shows that strength does not mean the absence of strain. But before we jump in, a few quick house rules so that we can keep this space respectful and valuable. I just want us to have one mic. If your request comes in to speak or share your comment, let's allow each person to finish before the next one comes in. No personal attacks, no, bad blood. Honest conversations are welcome. We don't tolerate disrespect. We want it to be constructive. We are here to learn and grow together. Now, I'm thrilled about our lineup today because I have amazing people. We have Eunice, who is an entrepreneur and philanthropist whose impact-driven work in sexual and reproductive health and rights continue to inspire so many. When she is also a renowned entrepreneur. She is the CEO of Editions by Ejapoma and also the founder of Chair Foundation. And she is an amazing person. This festive season, if you want to look amazing, if you want to look dapper, just visit her, shop. She's your plug. She is an amazing woman and she has so many collections. So she'll talk about it and more of the things that we are coming to discuss. We also have Pious, who is gender and leadership expert, always ready with the deep truth and the data that explains the things that we feel but cannot always put in words. Amazing gentleman. He's traveling all over the continent as far as gender issues are concerned. And he is also a family man with a beautiful wife and loving kids. I always say that I want to be like him when I grow up, but he's someone that I really respect and admire. I also have here Ya, regional head at the Department of Gender and of the Department of Gender at the Western North, bringing that important community perspective and the reality of what is happening on the ground. They are here to share it all with us, and I want you to sit tight and listen in. You'll be given the chance to speak. You'll be given the chance to share in your thoughts, your questions, and your comment. They are all welcome. And let's have amazing and fruitful discussion. Thank you. Okay, so whilst we wait for her, thank you. Okay, yeah, sure. It's better now. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Um, Yes, so I needed to learn on the job. We couldn't afford a financial personnel. We couldn't afford a project manager. So definitely, I needed to learn from people in who were already in the business. So I needed to learn how to balance sheet, how to draw budget myself, how to manage a project, even how to collect data and make sure we are able to track our work. So I needed to learn all these things. Now, the other thing is how I learned how to face decision makers and also investors. I am I am in the SRHR field, that is sexual and reproductive health and rights, with much emphasis on menstrual health. So you go to a decision making table about funding, and then you are going to meet men who have zero ideas about menstrual health with anything concerning women, and then you need to sort of convince them that what the work you are doing is very important, and then it's giving all the impact it's supposed to give. And these are people that know very little about it. So you need to be very strategic. You need to put your data on the table. You need to speak very straightforward. And I have to learn all these things all by myself. Now, putting all these things together, it's such a lot of energy, a lot of strength, a lot of you need a lot of support even from friends and families around you to be able to run an NGO and also run a personal business and also work in the hospital at the same time. So these are some of the things that I needed to do and needed to learn to help me keep afloat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eunice. That's powerful. You've touched on things a lot of people feel but don't always say out loud. My take home is knowing your purpose. And that brings me to Pious because uh, your work really looks at the bigger picture behind these experiences, Pious. So I want to know from you, from your research and work, what does invincible strength look like for women navigating leadership like Eunice in Ghana and also in Africa? Can you tell us?
All right, Chairman, thank you very much. Again, I'm happy to be here, and my name is Pious Asante. I am a gender and development expert. I just first of all want to say that invisible strength in this perspective for me is the unrecognized and the environmental backbone of and we can also categorize this as the hidden middle in the agri-food system or the agri-food economy because that's where most of my experience is based. And in my over a decade of work across Africa, specifically with FAO and now extending into some of the volunteering work that I do, I have come to define these invisible strengths. They are not just personality traits, right? They can be quantified as hard economic realities, meaning that what is the contribution of these investable strength or these hidden middle for the economy? First and foremost, a few years ago, I led a team of researchers to assess youth and women-led businesses in Ghana, right? And these women and youth-led businesses, we term them as the hidden middle or family-led businesses. And these family-led businesses, we say they are family-led because if a woman starts a business, she employs the children in the business, and it can be any business. It can be as small as a tabletop business to as large as a huge supermarket. And they use the household labor, to power this business. And we found that women are this hidden middle of the value chain. They are not merely smallholder farmers. They come in a form of like small to middle aggregators, processors, employers who try to bridge the gap between the farm, right, and then the market. They hold up or try to hold up the food security aspect of our nation and Ghana as particular. Yet, because their operations are often in the informal sector or lack certain formalities, their massive contribution remains invisible. invisible to the Ghanaian economy, invisible to formal banking systems, invisible to policy frameworks. But if you try to quantify their contribution to the GDP of our economies, it is you would see that it is a huge chunk. But then they don't appear in the ledgers of the books that that help to drive this our economy. Another strength also is the silent stewardship during crisis situations. Because I've seen firsthand the workings of COVID because I was part of the regional Africa Regional Task Force on COVID response in the agricultural sector. And while formal government systems struggle to react or even respond, it was these women informal networks in the rural communities that first adapted because they were able to manage the food distribution, they were able to manage the community health systems, they were able to, respond in their own way. And these were some of the practices, or these were some of the good practices that governments in Africa had to adopt to be able to tackle this crisis. And it's really key. It goes to show that, again, their role, I would not say it's taken for granted, but it's not recognized or acknowledged as much as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as part of some of the volunteering work I do, I work with an organization called TISEP. So TISEP is the International Center for Sustainable Environment Promotions. And I see again this invisible strength, right? Extending to environmental sustainability, environmental protection, and the whole contribution to climate change. Women are the primary custodians of natural resources. Let's not disregard that because for women that live in fringe communities or close to forest zones, they are the ones who take care of these forests. They seed, they make sure that these species do not go extinct. They adopt sustainable practices to conserve the soil, manage renewable energy systems, even at community and household level. And they also hold community and environmental resiliences together. Yet, they rarely sit at the table when decisions are being made. These decisions that, in a way, can be technical, can be financial, but they are left out because they do not see the strength that they bring to the table. And that is the invisible strength we're talking about, right? So, for me in Ghana and in Africa, the invisible strength is the ability to drive the economy, to move the economy forward, to pull the economy along and sustain the environment without the visible armor or the visible issues of the formal titles, land ownership, and then the adequate funding that comes with it. So thank you very much. Lamek, over to you.
Yeah, Pious, thank you so much for breaking that down. The ability to drive the economy and sustain the environment without visible ownership is something that is great. I love how you always connect the dots between personal experience and the system around us. So, yeah, from where you sit at the Department of Gender, what does this look like on the ground? You know, in your work with women at the community and institutional levels, what are some of the overlooked strengths that you see women consistently carrying? Can you tell us about it?
Thank you very much, Lambert. So, most often, we women are celebrated for our endurance, and this mostly overshadows our active and strategic because we are socialized to endure everything that is thrown at us. And we sometimes forget that for a family to be seen as a good family, it is mostly the woman who holds up everything. So everything around her, she's calculative. She makes sure that the whole community sees their family as perfect. And we forget that with enduring comes calculative planning. So the day the walls fall down, it means just this woman or these women have had enough of these things. So we sometimes forget that women are very strategic
when it comes to our planning and our strength. And when you take the community level, the women are also the informal financial backbones. Previously, women were not allowed to go in for land, so the men were the landowners, were the ones with the title deeds. And with time, women also found a way to get money, even with our normal system. You can see when it comes to the susu collection, it has a lot of women doing that because we're not able to go to the regular banks for loans. So through our systems, women had to find a way to get money. So through our systems, we came up with susu collection. We came up with the intricate credit networks among market women to sustain our households and economies, so that we'll be able to get something in case all odds fails us. And when we talk about the traditional level too, we can see that in our extended families, most of the time the women are the de-escalators of conflicts, but we don't talk a lot about that because we see it as the ebusiapin are always like mostly the men, the chiefs are the ones with the visible titles. But when we come to the arguments, the petty stuff that goes on in our families, it's the women that are the ones trying to de-escalate every conflict. We try to tell them that, oh, it's not right for you to be treating this person as that because this person is related to you. You are supposed to draw this person closer. So we have lots of invisible strengths that are overlooked, but we see it as it's normal. It's something that the woman is supposed to do. So it's not something that we've thought of. And I think this platform would help us also think more about that. So thank you, Lambert.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, great insight so far. And I want us to take a little deeper and look at the next angle because I love where this is going. I want us to talk about another part of this conversation that we don't always touch on, and that is how people perceive women in leadership and power. So, what I would want to ask you, Pious, from a gender and leadership perspective, which biases remain the most challenging in workplaces today? Because we've been seeing it across and it's something that ought to be unraveled. So, can you share in your thought with us?
All right, thank you very much, Mohammed. So, I would want to draw experience both at international policy level and then grassroots project level, right? I believe there are, for me in my line of work, there has been two distinct biases, and these biases have over the years stifled progress. The most challenging one, or the most basic one, is the soft issue bias, right? And what do I mean by so? Over the years, providing technical guidance to institutions, to ministries, to regional economic communities on how to formulate agricultural policies. The prevailing bias that has already always existed is that they believe gender equality, right, is a social welfare topic, something that is nice to have. And we only do this or embark on gender equality or women's empowerment when we have extra resources or we have extra money, rather than seeing it as a basic hard economic strategy. For example, I worked on a project in Tanzania, and we had to prove that analyzing the specific roles of women wasn't just about fairness, and that it was the only way to make the project successful because women in that context were the one, not just the labor force, but were the one who had the indigenous traditional knowledge in rice production, in value addition, and even the marketing. And this bias is that women in leadership are viewed through a lens of being beneficiaries that need help rather than they being agents that we can use to drive specific institutional or economic change. Even in high level meetings, when you present certain gender or sex disaggregated data, We often see stakeholders surprised by the sheer volume of work that women perform. And this is a bias, and this bias generally is blindness to the competence of what women do. I can give you a typical example in Ghana. So we have a regional publication, right, that stressed about the role of women in the agricultural sector, the gap that persists, what are their needs, what are their constraints, what are their priorities. So we have to move these publications from Ghana to other countries to share and also to disseminate. It got to customs and airports, and then there were certain issues that had come with it. So I had to go and speak to the commissioner who was in charge of the airport at that time. I was ushered into her office. Through conversation, I told her what my mission was, and then I told her what the publication is. The question she asked me was, wait, are women involved in agriculture? And I was like, how do you not know this? Right? Because we've made it seem as if their role that they play is not there. And this is one example that I keep sharing over and over again because we've made it our society in such a way that we believe that whatever role, whatever strength the woman gives in the agricultural sector should technically and overall not be considered because it's a man's job. But in actual fact, 80% of the farm labor in West Africa is done by women. 60% the whole of Africa. Another bias that for me also is the technical competence aspect. Because in the work I do with some of the volunteer work, we often face the assumption that women belong in community engagement roles and men belong in the technical roles. And this is a dangerous sort of default belief that women are just users. They cannot be architects, they cannot be engineers of the solution itself. But a lot of traditional indigenous knowledge over the years have been passed on by women, have been generated by women, and you see the effort that they put through. And these efforts are what needs to be taken up. And this is how you overlook these technical biases. We are still fighting the perception that investing in a woman leader, especially in technical fields, is a risk. Right? We cannot continue the business as usual mentality. We need to change the narrative. And again, it is important that we look beyond the blindness to the competence of what these women can do. And me, from as a man speaking from this perspective, it goes to show that the women in our society, really needs to be taken up and then need to bring forth their role in order to be effective, in order to drive the change that we want to see in our societies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pious. Coming from a man, I'm really, really happy because this is eye-opening and is something that is it ought to be looked at because women are really important in our societies. And for those who just joined us, if you're new here, this is our quarterly space series where we usually unpack real topics that shape how we show up, how we lead, how we support each other in our workplaces, our homes, and our communities. We are still continuing with the conversation. At a point, we will allow everyone to speak, those who are interested in sharing their experiences, their opinion, and any questions that you have. We will allow you the opportunity to speak. We will give you the platform. But I want to continue with this. And my next question that I want to ask is to you, yeah. Based on what Pius said, what policy or institutional interventions could help level the perception gap? Because it's very wide. In your opinion, how can we close this gap? Can you tell us all?
Okay, so in my opinion, I think formalizing and valuing the informal sector Institutional policies should stop treating the informal sector as an afterthought. Coming from the government, I recently went on a podcast and we're talking about something that had to do the economic. It had to do with the economics of market women, and I kept on saying things like what the government has done for market women and what the government is doing. And there was a market woman there, and she kept on saying she hasn't seen this, she hasn't seen that. But from where I was standing, it was something that I could see that the government institutions doing. But it looked like our conversations with them were not deep and we were not involving them. Some of them didn't know why they were paying taxes. Some of them don't know why they had to be paying for monies for Zoom Lions to come and collect their rubbish. And when it's even time, they don't even go for them. So the government needs to stop thinking about them as an afterthought and keep including them, especially the agricultural collectives, too, in high national economic planning. We should stop thinking when it comes to tax deposits, we can just go to the women and start talking to them and get them to understand just the tax deposits. But we need to let them know everything within the government, let them know where to get resources when they need them and how to be part of the government. We also need to enforce workplace anti-discrimination policies. We need stronger enforcement mechanisms for existing labor laws, and also we should include getting paid paternity leave. If men are also allowed to go for paternity leave, they would also know the importance of the maternity leave. Some people think the maternity leave is just for women to go and rest. They don't know what it entails. So if they also get into the paternity leave, it would also help. We also need a tolerance, transparent policies regarding sexual harassment in both public and private institutions. In the public institutions, is really high when it comes to sexual harassment. We take note of that, and women, we need to make sure that women are also safe to go through the ranks without thinking, oh, my colleagues are going to think I'm soft, I am too hard, and we should stop with the perception of, oh, if she's a woman, then that's how she's going to lead. There are so many issues that comes up before a woman is even able to lead. I'll take myself as an example. When it comes to the regional coordinating council where I am, I'll say we are just like three women. When we call for management meeting, we are just like three women on the table. And sometimes you can get there and you'll be the only woman. Sometimes they can call for a meeting and I'll be the only woman at the table. And sometimes they'll just end up saying, oh, Madam Gender, because I am there to make sure that maybe women's voice are included and men's voice are included. But they see it as I'm there just for women's voice, but it covers everyone. So we need to ensure that women feel safe to go through the ranks to say, oh, yes, I can be this person. And we also need a reform in our educational curriculum. We've had situations where we've seen from our education curriculum, we've always seen the man is the head of the family. We need to let our kids also know that the woman to bring something to the table, and it's also an equal partnership. And the way we socialize our kids too is another. For if we are able to, if we want to ensure that the perception gap changes, we need to start with our socialization. How are we training our boys and girls? We need to train them equally. The way girls are presented on the media, most of the time we are seeing girls presented as sex symbols or something that is seen as harsh. And my one of my director used to say this thing: when you want to know the face of poverty, it's always the woman that is used as the face of poverty. And that needs to change because it can't always be women. We are all suffering. It can't just be the woman's face when it comes to poverty. So these things can help change the perception gap or the institutional gap. Thank you, Lambert.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I 100% agree with you when it comes to the fact that men should also be allowed paternity leave. But it also breaks my heart the fact that women remains afterthought when it comes to policy intervention and social policy. It's something that really breaks my heart. And I want to ask you, Ines, um, have you experienced situations where leadership was perceived differently because you're a woman? And if so, how did you navigate that? Can you share that experience with
Okay.
us?
I mean, being a woman in leadership, you are going to meet a lot of challenges, including men thinking, "Oh, you are too hard." I've had quite a number of experiences with men I employed on my job, and just asking them to do the job the way you want it would become an issue, especially if you want it to be done within a certain time frame and then they are not doing it and you are asking, they think you are too hard, not because they cannot do the job, but then they think you are a woman. I had one too with another guy we employed. We were supposed to travel, and he decided to come 2 hours late. And I was very pissed off because we are very time conscious. My team and I we are very time conscious. They know that when I say we are leaving at 6 a.m., you don't leave your house at 6 a.m. In fact, you get to the location at 6 a.m. And then he decided to come 2 hours later, and I blasted him, of course. And he was angry throughout the trip. And I remember he telling somebody that, as a woman, I should, that we are paying for it, we need to deliver. So all these things come up. Just that you need to be firm. Like I said, you need to know your purpose, what you want to achieve at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how somebody perceives you, because they are always going to perceive you, because definitely you are a woman. And sometimes these men, sometimes on the team, I see how they relate with other men, like people that we employ for short term. When they come and then they meet other men on the team, they try to, relate with them in a certain way, like kind of give them some sort of respect, they call themselves bro bro and all that. But when it gets to you, they want to kind of rub shoulders with you, forgetting that it's not going to be that way. You are going to call them to order. You are going to make sure they do their job. Another thing is that on my team, like yeah mentioned, jobs needs to implement sexual harassment policies and all that. We do same at our place. It is not allowed. You are not supposed to make misogynistic comments. You are not allowed to sexualize anybody. You are not allowed to talk to anybody anyhow because the person is a woman. You are not allowed to shame anybody. And these are very serious offenses. If you do that, we are taking you out. So when they come and then they realize that we have all these things, they don't really stay with us for long. So all these things are very important. They will definitely um, perceive your leadership style a certain way, but then that is not, it is not different from what is being implemented anywhere else in the world. But then they believe that because they are men, they should be able to do certain things and get away with it. But unfortunately for them, it does not happen on my team. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And before we wrap up, I want to hear from my listeners. If you have questions or thoughts, feel free to request the mic or drop it in the comments. So I want us to just explore. If someone is having any experience to share, the floor is yours before we go to the next round of questions. Okay. Uh, those who just joined in, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Like I mentioned earlier, this is our quarterly airspace conversation. This is the last quarter conversation, and we are here to talk about the invincible strength, how women navigate power, perception, and progress. And we have been unpacking a lot. We've learned a lot from our amazing speakers. We have Eunice, we have Yeah, we have Pious, amazing people. They've shared a lot with us. And when we are done with this, the conversation is recorded, so you can go back and listen and enjoy in case you miss most of it. But you're welcome to this space conversation. And thank you so much. Your time is really, really appreciated. I want us to continue with this. Yeah. Hello? Someone wanted to speak? Yeah. So I want us to wrap the questions up. So I would want to ask you, Pius, what practical steps can organizations take to shift harmful perceptions around women in power? It is something that is very critical, and we need your opinion on that. Thank you so much. Can you help us with it?
Yes, yes. That is a very difficult question, right? And because each institution has certain principles that it's got, and in order to be able to change perceptions, we need to look at what even shapes these perceptions. How are these perceptions? How do they come over? And these are perceptions in our line of work in to come from culture, in to come from unspoken rules, taboos, customs and things. And so for me, I think the best approach would be to look at it on how to transform or change these practices by going through implemented transformative approach. And I believe that organizations need to stop trying to fix women, fix in quotes, and start fixing the institutions that we work in. Like putting strict measures in place, putting strict policies in place at organizational level. And I believe we need to make three have technical steps. One, we need to walk the talk with money. Most organizations have policies in place, but these policies are without the necessary financial allocations that can ensure that they are implemented. So I believe that if we put policies in place and it has no financial managerial backing, which is the resources, how is it going to be done? So having policies alone is not enough. We need to put budget lines in it. And that is why, as part of the work that we did, I think in the Gambia some few years ago, we believe that I saw that perceptions change only when resources, and these resources are important because resources in the end helps us walk the talk, helps us really do implement the policy that we have in place. Because if you put in place a proposal, for example, if you put in place a proposal and you do not have the resources to implement this proposal, how then do you say that you are reaching women or you are reaching the specific beneficiary that you are talking about? If a woman is in power, you need to ensure that they have the rights, they have to ensure that they have the resources to execute. Otherwise, you are just setting her up to fail because we put them there and then they become sort of ceremonial heads. And this is because international treaties, national laws, and national legislation are asking for a quota. So we put these women there for just the sake of it, right? Ceremonial heads. And then again, I believe that we need to look at or demand for specific data. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. And so, in order for you to know the exact context, you need to invest in data. Investing in data meaning that you have to move beyond the generic statistics. Because if the statistics is generic, you will not be able to track the women's impact we have in our organization. So we need to be able to have this data to explicitly show what women-led teams are delivering, what are the incredible returns on investments they have in our organizations. We need to show this high or excellent sustainability rate by women-led teams. And we have to use these hard facts in itself to dismantle the perception that women are less effective. Otherwise, we would continue to propagate this narrative that in itself first are not true and then left to mean or underplace the women. And then of late, I've heard a lot about mentorship and mentorship. We need to move from mentorship to active sponsoring and upstream inclusion. What do I mean by upstream inclusion? Some years ago, also, I was part of an accelerator mentorship program for women-led small and medium scale enterprises in Africa. And we found that just advising them was not enough. We needed to put in place and put them in contact with key resources, key individuals, key markets. We need to grant these, for example, in small scale, in the agricultural sector, we need to be able to grant them access to markets, access to finance, access to imports, putting them in place with technological hub, putting them in place with for them to have access to speed, technical advice on how even their project or their business should be run. So we need to move beyond just giving advice to now and then the time to give them these access. In terms of upstream decision making during project design phase and not just implementation, we need to see what would be the adequate contribution of women beneficiaries, of youth beneficiaries in our project scope, so that we are able to actively target and put in place targeted interventions to suit their needs. So when a community, the younger ones see that a woman is holding the blueprint and is directing certain resources to ensure the sustainable end or the sustainable, profitable end of an endeavor, it motivates them to also look up and also be able to practice what it is. We need to just shift perceptions by giving women control over things that matter the most in our society. And I believe that once they are at the helm, once we see that women are driving change, once we see that they are not just individuals to be put as stooges, then we will be on the way to have full inclusion and to have their potential being maximized at the highest level for everybody of drive development. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Shifting perception and giving women opportunities is a strong catalyst of change. I really, really like your submission. You're an amazing person, and I'm not surprised with the good work that you're doing. And you're an asset to this nation. Thank you so much, Pious. That's amazing. And I want to make it snappy. Thanks so much for your time, guys. I want to give my last question to uh, my last set of questions. I mean, to Eunice. Eunice, what advice would you give younger women trying to break barriers in male-dominated spaces? We need your
Okay.
advice.
Yeah. So my advice would be that you should go to school and those degrees, because I bet you will be scrutinized. They will check for every single loophole that you do not qualify. So make sure you get all those qualifications. Make good use of the fully sponsored scholarships all around. Make sure you are always educating yourselves on topics that would benefit you and also benefit your journey. So that is the advice that I would give. And also, do not be afraid to speak truth to power and also make sure the right things are being done, regardless if the person is a man or not.
I fully endorse speaking truth to power. It's something that is very, very profound from what you just said. And thank you so much about that. Um, yeah, I want to ask you this, then we'll wrap it up. What role can our communities, because you always touch base and you are doing so much in the Western North. You are very hardworking and we see what you do. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage you for the good work that you are doing in your sector. I always see you touching base in the community. I always say you are preaching the gospel of gender because you are a very hardworking woman, and I pray that you go far with that. Your efforts are well appreciated. I want to ask you this final question. What role can our communities, our family, and individuals play in lightening the mental load of women? Because it's very critical. We need your advice.
Thank you very much, Lambert. So, as individuals, I'll say when it comes to our partners, especially our husbands, we should shift from the husband should shift from helping to ownership. For instance, most of the time we'll be like, oh, help me in this, help me taking out the trash, help me do this, help me do that. As a husband, you don't really have to wait for your wife to ask you to do this. If it's something that she keeps asking, then you should own it and say, okay, like this is my job, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be taking out the trash. I'm going to help with this domestic aspect of our lives. You don't need to wait for her to ask for that. And when it comes to our extended family, we need to redefine support. Our extended family should start lowering their expectations. When I say lowering their expectations, for instance, normalizing catering services at family events. I've always said this, I've told my mom several times that when it comes to me, when it's my turn to be an adult, I'm an adult, but when it comes to me being an adult and I have to do these family things, I'm always going to outsource. And she keeps telling me that it is not right, it is blah blah, it's waste of money. And I'm like, no, it's not waste of money. It's something that I've seen you people suffering every time you get up in the morning cooking, and it's for me, I feel like it's stressful. So when it's time to do that, I would outsource, and I think it's something we should also look at. And our mothers should start complimenting our daughters. We should praise our daughters and daughters-in-law for professional achievements. When it comes to housework, we should let them know they are loved. We shouldn't always start insulting them or making them feel inhuman. For us in the social space, we have this thing where we say you praise the person out in the public, then you condone the person indoors so that the person would know that, oh, okay, so when I do something right, it's supposed to be visible for everyone to see, which means it is something good. And also, as a community, we need to start prioritizing affordable, high quality childcare and early educational centers. If we are able to prioritize early educational centers, it would help when women are transitioning from the motherhood back to their professional spaces. They wouldn't have to think of the stress that comes in what time do I have to pick up my child, by the time I get to work, and the time I would have to get home, feed my kids, and all these things. It would reduce our mental load. And I'm hoping if these things are done, we as women would have a safer environment to live in, and the men would also enjoy their peace. Thank you, Lambert.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Um, I'm done with my panels. They've given us a lot, and I consider this as our Christmas gift. But then, it's time for our listeners to speak. If you have any opinion, if you have any question, if you have any advice or suggestion, the floor is open. Feel free to share and key in your thoughts, and we will be happy to listen. I see familiar faces, and I don't take all of them for granted. Another person that I want to acknowledge at this particular moment is Blessela. She is also an amazing woman when it comes to gender issues. She's upfront propagating the gospel and doing amazing work. So I acknowledge your presence here. And I also acknowledge the presence of everybody. But for now, the floor is open. So I'll give a few moments for all of us to share in our thoughts. Thank you very much. I can see the app has made a lot of people listeners, even though I have sent a request for them to speak. But that being said, I think we would make it snappy and let's continue with the conversation even when we are done here and let everybody know that women are really important in our societies. They are never afterthought. They should never remain afterthought. They are playing integral part in our society. And there's a lot that has been shared by Pious, and Eunice. And this is amazing insight that we've received from them. And I'm amazed. This is a wonderful conversation. I just want us to wrap up, but before we do, thank you so much, Pius. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Eunice, for your amazing, contribution to this discourse. I don't take it for granted, and I also want to acknowledge the presence of everybody. Menel is one of the Menel is an amazing gentleman as well. He is into mentorship and he's grooming a lot of people, not only women, the young guys to be responsible and amazing people. He's also doing the most. And I also acknowledge the presence of Akoto. Nyameba, he is also an amazing gentleman. Judy, thank you so much. Sedinam is a loyalist. She is also an amazing woman doing so well. Thank you so much for listening to this amazing conversation. Thelma Lebene, an amazing woman as well. Thank you so much. You are also a true listener and we don't take it for granted. AC Amamo, thank you so much. Thank you so much. JK, those who don't know, JK is Justice Kumoji. He was a speaker and he's a renowned international relations person who is also doing amazing. He was a speaker during our previous episode that is breaking the hustle culture, and he did amazing with our co-speakers. That is Matthew and also Thelma. They were amazing last episode. So you can go back to listen to that particular conversation. Webbank Ghana, we thank you. Victoria and Stephen. And for those who are not familiar with this space, we have a lot of people who usually listen. If they don't have the app, they are able to listen, but you will not see them on the feed here. So I know we have a lot of people who are also listening to this conversation. Collectively, I want to say thank you to everyone for this amazing opportunity given to us to come to your phones, your tablets, your computer to have this discussion. We've touched on a lot, and that's the invincible strength, the leadership bias, the well-being. If there's one thing I'm taking away, is that women are carrying so much. They often quietly, but they are often quiet but very powerful. And acknowledging that doesn't take anything from anyone else. It actually helps all of us to build more balanced, supportive, and understanding environment. So it's something that is very dumbfounding. And to the men who joined, you are allies. You are allies. You are strong allies. Your presence matters. Your support matters. This conversation are stronger because you are here. So thank you so much. And to the women listening, I hope you walk away knowing that your strength is seen, your experiences are valid, and your progress is powerful, even on days when it feels slow or silent. You are amazing women. We appreciate all of you. All of you. You're not leaving anybody. All of you. You are amazing people. Let's keep having this conversation. Let's keep showing up for each other. But I want to give my speakers opportunity to have their last words before we wrap up. So the floor is yours, guys. Pious, and also Eunice, your last words. Do you have anything to share with us? And please, Eunice, I want you to let people know about your business because I've seen some of your collections. They are amazing, especially those for the kids. Guys, she is a renowned entrepreneur. Editions by Japoma. Follow her page, buy her stuff. She's going to tell you all. So the floor is yours, guys. I'm listening to everybody. So we can start with you, Pious.
Okay, if I
Yeah,
may.
yeah.
Okay, if I may, I just want to say that we, if we continue to treat the gender equality conversation as a charity project, we are ignoring our greatest asset, as I've said, which is the hidden middle, because this hidden middle is so real. The data is clear that investing in women isn't just the right thing to do, right? It is the only way to secure Africa's food and environmental future. If we want to continue to have food on our table, if we want to continue to feed the generation to come, if we want to continue to have the land or the earth that we live on, it's really, really important to invest in women. So let's move from this invisible strength to a lot more invested. Thank you very much. And over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, do you have any last words for us?
Okay, so I would say when it comes to gender issues, I want us to take the perception of gender issue is women's issue. It's not the women's issue. Gender issue has to do with everything. And I keep getting, oh, it's a women's issue, it's a women's issue. No, it's not a women's issue. We just want to make sure that women's voices are represented when it comes to planning, development of the country. And we need men to also voice out their issues if we also want to go far. We can't always say, oh, we because it's gender, we are saying it's women, so men do not have to say anything. Men also need to say something so that it balances it out. And I'll say it also involves all of us. We all need to be included if we want to attain or achieve gender equality goal. Everyone needs to be involved. We can't just leave this issue to a certain group of people to deal with. We all need to be involved in it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I just lost Eunice. I think her connection was just it dropped, but she sent her final words that women are really powerful and forced to reckon, and we are all here to make the society a better one. So that is it. I have seen new people who just joined. That's Kwesi and also Rennie and Steven. This is our last episode for the year. Our quarterly space conversation. We spoke about the invincible strength, how women navigate power, perception, and progress. Our previous episode spoke about breaking the hustle culture, how to create work-life balance in our society, and this one is touching on the gender-related issues. And like we mentioned, men are also supposed to voice out their opinion, as said by Ya. And this means that we are not discrediting men. They are also strong allies. So we thank you guys for joining this amazing conversation. Let's keep having this conversation. Let's keep showing up for each other. Let's keep pushing for spaces where everyone can thrive without carrying the weight alone. Thank you again for spending this hour with us. I'm really, really happy. And until next time, I want us to stay safe, stay kind to ourselves, and keep choosing progress in whatever we can and whatever way we can. And see you at the next edition. Thank you so much, everyone. Um, God be with us all. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you.